I made a video 5 days ago at the local top saying we're going to get a major dip first before we blast off into all season. I believe we're currently halfway through that dip, and I'm going to tell you how low it's going to go based on history and tell you what you need to watch out for. This could shape up to be one of the final traps before this market pushes off into all-time highs and the leverage traders full send the market, leaving everyone who didn't get in brutally sidelined. We've got so much to talk about in this video. If you care about making the most amount of money possible in this leg of the bull market, make sure you watch it to the end. Nothing in this video is financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. So I'm going to start off this video by discussing whether or not it's possible this entire leg fails and collapses. Some YouTubers and influencers have been discussing the idea that we go to retest and sweep the lows at 75k. I want to weigh in on this and give my honest opinion as to how these entire legs should be played. So I'm just going to tell you straight up, based on my analysis, we're somewhere around September of 2024, which means we have about 2 to 3 months of a good uptrend where we can make a lot of money. And also everything that we've seen so far over here is just the warm-up phase. I know those of you who listen to me from the bottom and bought my calls are sitting in great profits right now, and you might find that hard to believe, but just take a look at where we are over here and take a look at where we were over here. Take a look at the blue lines. We haven't even broken all-time highs yet. I don't usually speak like this where I get really hyped up, but I don't think any of us can fathom the gains that are going to come. And regarding whether we're going to go to 75k again, I think it's really unlikely. Consider what it took for us to get down to 75k before. It took the stock market literally going into a bear market. It was really hard to get in this low. And if the macro situation has improved with tariffs, and during that whole period, dumb money was selling their holdings to smart money, why on earth would we need to go this low again? It just doesn't make sense from a market perspective. The only way you can argue for 75k is if you genuinely believe Bitcoin topped for the entire cycle over here and we're going into a legit bear market that goes to like 30k. Probabilistically, betting your entire portfolio on this scenario is foolish in my opinion, and this is the reason why. This is the golden tool I used at the bottom to tell people that look, it's very, very unlikely that we go into an actual bear market, and this is something you need to have bookmarked and you need to be checking every few weeks or so. This one indicator tells you how risky Bitcoin is getting. If the Bitcoin price, which is the orange line, is significantly higher compared to the blue line, that's a cycle ending top signal. So until I see a major divergence between these lines and a major gap like we had over here and over here and over here, I will not be calling for a bear market. And the reason is very simple. The only reason bear markets even happen is because a bunch of dumb emotional money piles in and drives the prices way beyond what they should be. And it takes a long time to weed all of those people out again. If we don't see that happening, which we haven't seen in this cycle so far, then on what grounds can we expect a savage bear market? There isn't any. That's why I'm of the belief that the probability of going to 75k is really, really low. And instead, the bigger risk is being sidelined on the rally towards 150k. So to put it as simply as possible, my thesis for the market is untouched, and I have maximum conviction right now. For the simple reason that we haven't seen any excess speculation in Bitcoin. Just take a look at the gap between the orange and blue line. There's barely any. And also because a ton of people are still sidelined in this market. Now you might say to me, how do you know that there's so many sidelined people in this market? I know that because of these key reasons. If we take a look at the context of this bull market, from 2024, which is when most people started coming back in, they started making some good money in March, only to get completely rugged again for the next several months. They start making some good money in November and December again, only to get treated to an altcoin bear market. So at this point at the bottom, they've spent over a year in crypto with nothing to show for it. That's enough to break any man. Combine that with the tariff mania and the recession fears that we had down here, and you can't really ask for more if you want to really brainwash people into being extremely bearish. And you know, when people become brainwashed, they become sidelined, and there's a lot of sideline capital in this market right now. If you take a look at the polls, even the people who are right now voting the numbers range from 25% to 40% sidelined. If you take a look at YouTubers' views, they've barely even recovered from the exact bottom, which means retail isn't even properly back yet. That's why the real number is likely way higher than 25 to 40%. There's so many people left to come in and push these prices higher. And I'm going to end this segment by saying most people turn their brains off and believe in the bull market once the market has been up for 125 days straight. By then, they've seen enough green candles, and it's been so long since they've seen the market go down, they've been conditioned into expecting up only. I believe now is the time to be really confident in the market and to expect higher prices. Not in 2 months when everyone's feeling rich. You must believe before others do, and then sell to them when they start believing. Okay, now that I've given you some higher time frame confidence in the market, let's discuss how much more of a low time frame dip is left to come. Here's my analysis from September 2024. During this pullback, Bitcoin dipped 11%. The altcoin index dropped 18%. Now, this chart isn't actually that useful because if we go to September 2024 and we look at the pullback, it tells us that the market only dipped 18%. But if you actually take a look at the real things people hold, the average altcoin dipped around 26.6%. So in reality, altcoins dip around 10% more than what this chart tells us. Anyways, the key things to note is that from September 2024, the altcoin index pumped 43%. So if we go back here from the lows, it pumped 43%. And then it dipped 18%. This time, the altcoin index pumped around 63%. So it's my base case that the altcoin index should now drop at least 18%, if not more, if it's going to be in line with September 2024. So far, this thing has dipped around 14% or so, which means the dip is not finished. And based on history, we should be getting more of a pullback. If you want to know how much, I wouldn't be too scared at this point. I would say another 10 to 20% dips across the board on altcoins before this market starts to violently uptrend again. Of course, it depends on how bad the Bitcoin correction gets, but that's what I'm expecting. Some people will hear this and get upset. My job is to show you the historical patterns that the market displays. Imagine having someone who every week studies the previous legs of the market and tells you what's most likely to happen based on history. That's an incredibly valuable resource, and you can't really get mad at me because I said 5 days ago at the local top that a dip is likely going to be coming. For those of you who are in since the bottom, don't worry, this dip won't really be too painful. The era of pain is over. And the reason I say this dip won't be too painful is because there's just way too much sideline capital on the market ready to enter, and we're in a strong trend for the entire market. And you know, these past few months since February and January, where I was saying months in advance that April and May are the months to be bullish, and I've been really accurate. It's just simply based on what I've shown you in this video, which is simple timing analysis and using fractals from previous legs. It's honestly so scary how accurate it can be at times, and most people don't even bother to research this stuff. So if you want to be kept up to date with this sort of timing analysis of how each of these legs will play out, when to take profit, etc., make sure you subscribe now. Now, I don't usually talk about low time frame dips on this channel, but the reason I'm doing it now is because firstly, I want to help share conviction in the entire leg and help keep people's emotions stable so they don't worry. The second reason is because, as I said at the start of this video, let's take a look at September of 2024. This was like the final dip where you can really position properly before leverage traders came in and full send the market. So during this next dip that comes, it's going to be really crucial to get out of weak, underperforming altcoins and swap into strong performers that can do really well. Otherwise, you run the risk of wasting an entire leg of this market. By entire leg, I mean a 3-month uptrend where things go up only and the opportunity to make a lot of money is there. And this dip that's coming now could be the final one. And it will be based on history if we follow this September fractal. And in terms of bull market mega legs, this could be the final one. Hopefully, we get another one after this one where we pump into the summer and then we dump, and then in Q4 we go for new highs again, and we get one final leg. But we just have to be considerate of the fact that this may be the final and most powerful one. We just don't know, and we have to take it one leg at a time. So once this leg plays out and we pull back, we're going to be met with a fork in the road where either we get another leg or we're going into a bear market. When the time comes, we'll deal with that then. And as I said, we'll play one leg at a time and try to maximize the profits in each one. Now, since I made that video about the major dip that's coming, I've been patiently waiting to make a new call in the Discord. It's almost at my entry. And if this analysis plays out, which is likely based on prior history, I'm going to make the new call in the Discord first. And if we're still at a good entry, I'm going to then bring it onto YouTube and share my thesis on here. I really do believe it's an excellent pick to swap low conviction underperformers into. And it's just part of my compounding strategy where I take a 3 to 5x on one pick, I take profits, rotate into Bitcoin, and then I roll that money into another 3 to 5x pick. It sounds tricky, but it's not. We've already done it like I've shown you in my last 2 videos. But not only is this strategy more profitable, it's safer too, because firstly, it stops you holding alts for way too long, waiting for that elusive 10x. And also because once you are in Bitcoin, if the market suddenly reverses, you're protected on the downside. I'll leave the link to the Discord in the pinned comments. Make sure you join as soon as possible. Okay, now I'm going to share my 4-step process for buying altcoins and managing my investments. A lot of people, when they buy altcoins, they're literally just buying because a YouTuber said it's good, and then they pray it goes up. And sometimes it does go up like 50 to 100%, and they think they've done really well. But then when shit hits the fan, they end up losing 70 to 80%, which means they start going below cost basis. So the real money that they put into crypto, they go below that. Here's exactly what you need to do. I'll use my syrup call as an example. Don't buy this now. It's pumped way too much. But when I called this at 0.12, I had a few key pieces of information that helped me make this call. At 0.12, the most important thing I knew was that the downside was really limited. I knew based on prior analysis that it's really hard to send this token below 0.10 and keep it there. So in my mind, I knew the downside risk of this token was really low. And I had to say to myself, okay, if it does go down 30% and it just gets stuck there, I can cut my losses and just get out. But I also knew, because of the market conditions and how underlooked this token was, it could easily 5x. So you had a situation where, let's say you can afford $5,000 to put into syrup, you risk $1,500 to make $20,000. And you know the likelihood of even losing that money is low because of your prior analysis. And you also know, because of the market analysis and the quality of this project, it really can 5x. And that's just one example. The other 2 calls I made, I've used this exact same process. So you have 4 key things. You need good upside potential with a strong likelihood of playing out. And you also need low downside risk with a low likelihood of it actually playing out. I promise you one thing. If you manage your risk and you continually find asymmetric setups like this, it's almost impossible for you to lose in crypto. There's only 2 things you need for this to work. It's emotional control to manage losses and handle positions if they go underwater, and also to take profits, and also quality research to know that a coin like this has the potential to absolutely rip up. My service is entirely dedicated towards finding these setups that meet these key things, and I already have one almost ready to go. The reason I haven't called it yet is because I need it to dip just a little lower so it goes into my zone where I say, okay, the downside risk is low and the likelihood of it going lower is really low as well. But also this thing can 5x very fast. That's the type of setup that I'm in love with because it's very powerful. And if I keep taking it over time, even if I lose once or twice, I'm going to make a lot of money in the long run. That's why I rarely make calls, because finding these setups takes a long time. It's not like you get a new one every day. I only try and focus on quality. Remember, I'll leave the link to the Discord in the pinned comments. Thanks for watching.